Dear viewers, hello and welcome to this session. In today's lecture, we will discuss the taxonomy and diversity of the family Apocyanaceae. The family Apocyanaceae is based on the type genus Apocynum and is commonly known as the dogbane family, which is a Greek word meaning away from dog, in reference to some species of the family being used as dog poison. Apocyanaceae sensu lato also includes the former Asclepiadaceae or the milkweed family as a subfamily Asclepiadoideae. The members of Apocyanaceae are often poisonous, containing alkaloids or glycosides, especially in the seeds and latex. The family includes many well-known ornamental shrubs and vines such as periwinkle, oleander, milkweed, etc., and many succulent plants such as Stapelia and Plumeria. The family is characterized by the occurrence of climbers, shrubs, trees and herbs which often contain milky latex in the aerial parts. The presence of pollinia with translator apparatus is a characteristic feature of the subfamily Asclepiadoideae. The occurrence of a tuft of hairs on seeds is a distinguishing feature of this family. Some of the common genera of this family are Asclepias, commonly known as the milkweed, which include red-flowered plants, Calotropis with xerophytic wild shrubs, Nerium or oleander, which are grown as ornamentals, Alamanda, which are the climbers with showy flowers, Rolfia, which are important medicinal plants, and Theriaceae, which include poisonous plants. First of all, we will talk about the taxonomy of the family Apocyanaceae. We will start with the habitat, which is the area or environment where an organism normally lives. Plants in Apocyanaceae are usually mesophytic, but some species such as Nerium and Plumeria show xerophytic characters, such as the occurrence of coriaceous leaves with a thick cuticle. The habit or the characteristic appearance, form or manner of growth in Apocyanaceae shows that the plants vary from perennial herbs such as vinca to shrubs such as Theriaceae, or they are small trees like Calotropis and Plumeria, and sometimes they are climbers such as Cryptostasia and Tylophora. Some members in the Apocyanaceae are epiphytic such as Dischidia. They are sometimes succulent such as Hoya, or completely xerophytic with cactus-like body such as Stapelia. These plants are often with milky latex. In Apocyanaceae, root is usually a branched taproot, that is, the root that derives directly from the radicle. But rarely we find adventitious roots in Apocyanaceae, such as in Dischidia. Sometimes a fleshy or tuberous perennial root stalk is also present. The stem is aerial, herbaceous, woody or climbing. In some xerophytic forms of Apocyanaceae, the stem is succulent and usually modified into green phylloclades and often with protective covering of wax and hairs, as we can find in Hoya and Stapelia. Anatomically, the stem is characterized by the presence of bicollateral vascular bundles, those bundles in which the phloem occurs both internal and external to the xylem. Latex is present in latissiferous vessels. In Apocyanaceae, leaves are usually opposite, decussate, as we can see in Calotropis, or whorled as in Nerium, or sometimes alternate as we can find in Amsonia. These leaves are simple, entire, and sometimes reduced to spines or scales, as we can find in Stapelia, with pinnate venation and are petiolate and exstipulate. In Dischidia, the leaves are transformed into a pitcher. The inflorescence is usually in dichasial or monochasial cymes, but are sometimes paniculate or umbellate, as we can see in Asclepias and Calotropis. Rarely the flowers are solitary, as we can see in Vinca and Stapelia. The flower in Apocyanaceae is bracteate, bracteolate, pedicellate or sessile, actinomorphic, pentamerous or tetramerous. These flowers are bisexual, hypogynous, rarely perigynous or epigynous, as we can see in Plumeria, and are often coronate, and a hypogynous disc is usually present. Perianth, which is the collective term for sepals and petals found in Apocyanaceae, is biseriate, that is, arranged in two whorls with a distinct calyx and corolla. Calyx commonly consists of 5 sepals, which are either distinct and then aposepalous, or they are basally connate, called as synsepalous. This calyx is regular and with valvate astuation, as we can see in Catharanthus, or it's with quincuntial astuation, as we can see in Thevetia. This calyx often shows glandular appendages like colitas or squamally at its base. Corolla comprises 5 petals which are united into a tube and are thus sympatalous. This corolla is usually salverform, as we can see in Catharanthus, or infundibuliform, as we can find in Cryptostasia and Thevetia, or it's campanulate, as we can find in Alamanda and Calotropis, or is sometimes pitcher-like, as we can find in Ceropegia. This corolla shows imbricate or rarely valvate astuation and is often hairy within. Corona is usually of 5 scales or appendages and is either corolline, that is, arising from the corolla throat, as we can see in Nerium, or it is staminal, that is, arising from the staminal tube, as we can find in Calotropis. It's often elaborated with appendages like horns and hooks which are meant to contain nectar. Sometimes a separating column is present between the hood and corolla. The corona usually shows twisted, sometimes imbricate or rarely valvate aestivation. These coronal appendages are nectariferous. The androecium consists of 5 stamens which are alternipetalous or epipetalous. The filaments are short and free, as we can see in Apocyanoideae, or they are connate into a short tube, as we can find in Asclepiadoideae, except for Cryptostasia. Anthers are free with separate pollen grains, or they are adnate with stigma by their connectives. They are dithecous, basifixed, often sagittate or arrow-shaped, introrse and longitudinal in dehiscence. In Nerium, the anthers bear hairy appendages and the connectives are often prolonged above into long outgrowths which are spirally coiled around one another. In Asclepiadoideae, the stamens are adnate to the stigma, forming a 5-angled disc called as gynostegium, also known as gynandrium. The pollen are fused within the anther sacs to form waxy mass called pollinium. The 2 pollinia, one each from adjacent anther, are held together by a translator apparatus located within the stigmatic or pollination slits on the sides of this gynostegium. In translator apparatus, each pollinium is attached through a caudicle to each of the 2 arms called as retinaculi, which in turn are attached to a central gland called corpusculum. Gynoecium in Apocyanaceae consists usually of 2 carpels which are united or syncarpous, but sometimes only apically. The ovary is mostly superior, uni to bilocular with 2 or more pendulous ovules in each locule. Style is simple and the stigma is often enlarged into a massive thick head bearing 5 lateral pollination slits, which are also known as stigmatic slits. A ring-like disc is usually found at the base of the ovary. The placentation is marginal and the ovules are anatropous. In Apocyanaceae, the fruit is usually a pair of follicles, or it's a berry, as we can find in Landolphia. It can even be a drupe, as we can see in Cerbera, or a capsule, as we can find in Alamanda. Sometimes 2 indehiscent winged mericarps or samara are also found, as we can see in Cameraria. The seeds are endospermic or non-endospermic, flattened but sometimes winged, as we can see in Alamanda and Plumeria. They are mostly with a tuft of silky hairs at the apex. Embryo is straight and the cotyledons are 2, which can be flat, folded or rolled. Pollination in Apocyanaceae is entomophilous. Insects like butterflies, bees, etc. are attracted by the colored petals, the corona and the nectar secreted by the disc. In Asclepiadoides, once an insect aligns on a flower in search of nectar, its legs become attached to the corpusculum of the translator apparatus, connecting a pair of pollinia, and slip down in the stigmatic slit in the column and hook. As the insect flies away, it pulls the twin pollinia from the stigmatic slit. When the insect arrives at another flower, the pollinia are in such a position that they are reinserted in a stigmatic slit into the stigmatic chamber and then break off, thus distributing the pollen grains over the stigma. Seed dispersal in Apocyanaceae occurs mainly by wind due to the presence of winged seeds and tuft of hairs. We now come to the systematic position of family Apocyanaceae. Different taxonomists have classified the family differently. Some of the prominent ones are: number 1, the Bentham and Hooker. The two British botanists placed Apocyanaceae in the class Dicotyledons, subclass Gamopetalae, series Bicarpellatae, and order Gentianales. Arthur Cronquist, an American taxonomist, placed the Apocyanaceae in the division Magnoliophyta, class Magnoliopsida, subclass Asteridae, and order Gentianales. Armin Takhtajan, a Russian taxonomist, placed the family in the division Magnoliophyta, class Magnoliopsida, subclass Lamidae, superorder Gentianae, and order Apocynaales. Rolf Dahlgren, a Danish botanist, placed the family in the class Magnoliopsida, subclass Magnolidae, superorder Lawsoniae, and order Gentianales. Robert Thorne, an American taxonomist, placed the family in the class Angiospermae, subclass Lamidae, superorder Lamianae, and order Rubiales. Angiosperm phylogeny group, a large collaborative group of taxonomists led by Peter Stevens, placed the family in APG2 of group Euasterids first and order Gentianales. After discussing the systematic position, we will now discuss the phylogeny of Apocyanaceae. The family Apocyanaceae, in a broader sense, comprises two earlier families, the Apocyanaceae or dogbane family and the Asclepiadaceae or the milkweed family. The second being considered as a subfamily Asclepiadoides of the first one. Previously, most taxonomists, namely Bentham and Hooker, Engler and Prandtl, Hutchinson, Cronquist, and Dahlgren, considered the family Apocyanaceae to be closely related to Asclepiadaceae, the latter bearing pollinia, gynostegium, and mostly staminal corona. Later on, Thorne merged the family Asclepiadaceae with Apocyanaceae, and the practice has been followed by Takhtajan, Judd et al., APG2, and AP Webb. Judd et al. And Andres et al. Believe that the separation of Asclepiadaceae as a distinct family would lead to paraphyletic Apocyanaceae. Thorne divided the family Apocyanaceae into 5 subfamilies, which are Rolfioideae, or commonly known as Plumeroideae, Apocyanoideae, Periplocoideae, Sycamonoideae, and Asclepiadoideae. Sandblad and Bremer considered Rolfioideae and Apocyanoideae quite widely paraphyletic. Podgater and Albert are of the opinion that the generic limits and the position of the Periplocoideae as sister to Sycamonoideae and Asclepiadoideae is not properly clear. Cladistic analysis from the sequence data for the RBCL gene from 24 taxa of the families Apocyanaceae and Asclepiadaceae have also shown that the Asclepiadaceae are nested within the Apocyanaceae. An amalgamation of the two families has therefore been recommended. The subfamilial classification is also found to be in the need of revision. The subfamilies Plumeroideae and Apocyanoideae of the current classifications are paraphyletic, as are many tribes. The Apocyanaceae and Asclepiadaceae are two relatively large families. In total, approximately 4,800 species in the order Gentianales of Asteridae. The current circumscription of the Gentianales was made by Vonetus, who included the families Gentianaceae, Rubiaceae, Apocyanaceae, Asclepiadaceae, and Loganiaceae. Recent molecular studies also support this circumscription. Today, most systematists like Dahlgren, Cronquist, Taxonomy, and Thorne accept that the Apocyanaceae and the Asclepiadaceae are closely related within the order. Several recent studies have shown that they form a monophyletic group and have indicated that the nearest sister groups of the Apocyanaceae Asclepiadaceae complex are to be found in the paraphyletic family Loganiaceae. We now come to the classification of the family Apocyanaceae. Apocyanaceae sensulato is an amalgamation of the two families Apocyanaceae and Asclepiadaceae. Thorne divided the family into 5 subfamilies. These subfamilies are Rolfioideae, Apocyanoideae, Periplocoideae, Sycamonoideae, and Asclepiadoideae. The last 3 subfamilies contain the genera which were initially included in the Asclepiadaceae, whereas the first 2 subfamilies used to be a part of Apocyanaceae in a strict sense. But nowadays, all the 5 subfamilies are included in the family Apocyanaceae. We will now talk about the diversity of Apocyanaceae. Apocyanaceae is one of the 10 largest families of angiosperms, comprising 480 genera and 4,800 species, including Asclepiadaceae. They are distributed widely in the tropical and subtropical regions of the world, with only a few species in the temperate regions. Asclepias with about 220 species, Tabernae montana with 220 species, Cynancum with 200 species, Ceropedia with 140 species, Hoya with 140 species, Rolfia with 105 species, and Alamanda with 15 species are some of the larger genera. Lastly, we will discuss the economic importance of Apocyanaceae. The family is of great economic importance, particularly for its ornamental, medicinal and poisonous plants, as well as for rubber and fiber yielding plants. First, we will talk about the medicinal value of Apocyanaceae. Several species of Apocyanaceae are medicinally important, such as Rolfia serpentina, commonly known as sarpgandha. Its roots are a source of many alkaloids like serpentine and reserpine, which are used to treat mental disorders and high blood pressure. Juice from leaves is used to treat eye problems. From Sarcostemma acidum, the dried stem is used as an antidote for snake bites. Alstonia scholaris bark is used to cure snake bite and the milky juice is applied in ulcers. Holarina antidysentrica seeds yield a drug which is used in the treatment of amoebic dysentery. Catharanthus roseus yields some anti-carcinogenic drugs, particularly the anti-leukemic. Valeris solanaceae latex is used for curing toothache and for inflated gums. Thawazia peruviana seeds are used in the treatment of rheumatism and dropsy. Tylophora indica roots are used in the treatment of asthma, bronchitis and whooping cough. The family Apocyanaceae also presents many ornamental plants. Some of these include Nerium indicum, the common Indian oleander, which is grown for its fragrance and showy pink or white flowers. Thawazia peruviana, which is grown for foliage and fragrance and bear yellow or orange flowers. Plumeria acuminata is grown usually for fragrance and bright colored flowers. Alamanda cathartica is a choice climber grown usually for lax racemes of its large, showy and golden yellow flowers. Carissa spinarum is a spiny shrub grown as hedge for difficult areas of the landscape. Vinca or the common periwinkle, particularly Vinca major and Vinca minor, are grown for violet flowers and planted as ground cover and in window boxes. Some plants of this family are also grown in glass houses, such as the species of Asclepias, Hoya, Stapelia, Ceropegia, etc. The plants from Apocyanaceae are also a source of fiber. The fiber obtained from Asclepias kurosavica, Calotropis gigantea, Tylophora tenuis and Marsdenia royale is used for cordage, fishing nets and twines. Many species of Hancornea, Funtumia, Cryptostasia, etc. are a commercial source of rubber. Many plants of this family are poisonous and may sometimes prove fatal if ingested. Some of the poisonous species are Thawazia peruviana, from which the seeds contain thavetine, a poisonous glycoside. Acanthera abyssinica latex is used for poisoned arrows. Nerium indicum bark and wood provide rat poison. The whole plant of Cynancum arnoceanum is used as an insecticide. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. We hope watching this lecture helps you in better understanding of the characteristics, taxonomy, systematics and the diversity of family Apocyanaceae. Thank you very much for watching.